You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves country with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99, WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up, there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell and engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Magee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves and bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines 2 of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infidium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Choose your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The new college football playoff rankings are out. The Georgia Bulldogs remain at #1. Michigan follows up at #2, TCU 3, and the Southern Cal Trojans finish out the top 4. On their heels, #5, Ohio State, Alabama Crimson Tide at 6, the Tennessee Volunteers at 7. Penn State, Clemson, and Kansas State round out the top 10. College basketball tonight in the Southeastern Conference. The Georgia Bulldogs host Hampton. That game is at 7 o'clock Eastern. Vanderbilt is at VCU. That game can be seen on CBS Sports Network. The Tennessee Volunteers, ranked 13th in the land, they are at home against McNeese on SEC Network, 7:15. And later on, you've got A&M hosting SMU. The Gators against Florida A&M, and South Carolina travels to George Washington. In ACC action, you got a big one. Number 25, Ohio State at number 17, Duke. That game is on ESPN. 7:15 is the tip-off. On the Deuce, number 5, Purdue is at Florida State. Rutgers at Miami. Number 18, North Carolina at number 10, Indiana. Michigan State is at Notre Dame. And the late tilt, Boston College, Nebraska, will finish up the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And in the NBA, the Hawks are at the Magic tonight, 7 o'clock tip-off. You've got an NBA TV doubleheader. Heat are at the Celtics at 7:30 Eastern, and the Trailblazers at the Lakers. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Rum and Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important
Do you
it is?
have
Try and
any
save the pub
idea?
book. Really? This
Do
is what
you
you're
have
doing?
any
This is what you're doing? We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
What do you want to do tonight?
Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world. 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair. YouTube Live.
Radio station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio. We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. I don't know much, but I know one thing. Stephen A. Smith is out of his mind. We'll talk about it in a second.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man with a cool in his head. Yeah, the armchair.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome to Braves Country with the Armchair Quarterbacks. I'm Mac McGee. Doug is on the way. We'll be talking some NFL shortly, but before, got to get into this. I planned on starting with the college football, but we'll do that. We'll put a pin in that for 1 second. I got to address something with the college football rankings. We'll jump into that in a second. But before we get into that, I was rewatching program from ESPN this morning, and Stephen A was, and you can just tell this guy is always lost when it comes to college football. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The only thing he knows is Bama's good, and that's all I know, right? And that's all it's so why he chimes in on college, why they even try to talk college football, I'll never understand. But he said on national television that Deion Sanders should be the head coach of Florida State right now, that it's absurd that he's not. What are you, nuts? Are you an idiot? Or look, I don't get up there and try to do the ins and outs of soccer. You know why? Because I don't watch it enough. Might be a fan, but I don't watch it enough. If for him to stand up there and say that Deion Sanders should be the head coach of Florida State at this juncture right now, I'm not talking about down the road. I'm talking about right now on November 30th, 3:04 p.m. Eastern time, 2022, is the most absurd thing I have ever heard. I don't care if you like Deion. I don't care if he's buddies. I don't know what their relationship is. Deion's done a fine job where he's at right now. But it's not like Florida State's looking for a head coach. Mike Norvell took over an absolute dumpster fire. An absolute dumpster fire from Willie Taggart. And he did it in the worst possible situation. Not only did he come into a team that had not recruited, they had not developed their players. The culture there at Florida State was terrible after Willie Taggart and coming off the heels of Jimbo Fisher. So he was fighting two uphill battles. And then you add a third one, which is he went into the pandemic as his first year at Florida State. And there were some rumblings and there were certain players, not liking Norvell off the jump. So they tried to throw him under the bus because that was the thing to do in 2020 on social media. You didn't like something, you threw someone under the bus. And usually everyone got their pitchforks out and they went after him, but they didn't do that with Florida State. And the truth came out and found out that the kid was basically full of it. One of the few times I haven't pulled for a kid leaving to go have a good career in the NFL was the junk that was pulled in 2020. But he came back 2021, 2020. Yeah, I've said this before with all sports. You kind of have to throw it under the bus. You kind of have to throw 2020, I guess, under the bus wouldn't be the right term. You kind of have to throw it out with the trash, right? And 2021, he came out the gates with 4 consecutive losses, and everyone in Tallahassee was kind of looking around going, I don't know about this guy. But you had to give him a full year, and he came on strong. He didn't beat Florida, but that was realistically his first year. This year, he's gone 9-3. He beat his rivals, the in-state rivals of Miami, pounded them 45-3 on the road, and then beat the Gators in a thriller. So for him to say that the Deion Sanders should be taking this guy's job, he has done a complete rebuild. And that just tells you that when you get these talking heads, especially the ones up in the Northeast that try to chime in on Southern college football, they don't know what they're talking about. They went on and on and on, blathering on about whether or not Alabama should be in the playoffs. Let's talk about the fact that Georgia is by far the number 1 team in the country, and let's get focused on who is going to be in the playoffs. And I hate to break it to Alabama fans, if one of the teams lose, not Georgia or Michigan, but if TCU or USC loses, the first team up is going to be Ohio State, whether you like it or not. They've got 1 loss, and that's what it'll most likely be. The rankings came out last night. Let's go ahead and dive into that. College football rankings: Georgia number 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, and USC 4. You could go back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for folks that are watching on our Facebook page. You can join in on youtube.com /@Braves Country. I'm going to jump in real quick with this. And you see where Georgia is 1, Michigan's 2, and that is not changing realistically. The only thing that could change would be if Georgia or Michigan were to lose, the seedings would change. But Georgia and Michigan have punched their ticket. And I really feel like, for all intents and purposes, TCU has punched their ticket. But I don't think that's the national feeling, and you'll probably get a brand name in over TCU because they haven't done it year after year after year. And look, whether it's right or not, TCU just take care of the game on Saturday against Kansas State, and you'll be in. If Southern Cal wins and they're a conference champion, a major conference champion, a Power 5 champion, they're in. Whether you like that or not, whether you think the Pac-12 is worthy, I can tell you I've watched more Pac-12 football in the last couple of years than I've done probably my entire lifetime. And I've got a newfound respect for them. But do I think that they could square up and beat Georgia? No. Michigan, probably not. And I don't think the Southern Cal could beat TCU for that matter. But they have the right to be able to go in there. Caleb Williams, if you haven't watched him, he'll probably be the number one pick in the 2023 draft. Phenomenal athlete, cocky. Some people hate him, but he backs up most of it with his play. So he's a big ticket guy. And if you don't like him, you should probably pull for him to win, because the Georgia Bulldogs defense will be hunkering down and going after him. So that's your top four. Outside of that, you got Ohio State, Nebraska. I'm sorry, I said Nebraska. Sorry, they're on my mind. Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Penn State, Clemson, and then Kansas State rounds out the top 10. One of the problems that I have with this, and I know what they're going to say. I absolutely know what they're going to say. They're going to say their quarterback is hurt, and that's why we dropped him. But Tennessee beat Alabama head-to-head on the football field, and this is where I think they really got it wrong. I absolutely believe the Tennessee Volunteers should be ranked in front of Alabama. They beat them on the football field where it counts, and I get that Tennessee turned around and lost in a blowout to South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. But it was on the road, and they had just suffered an injury with their quarterback. They righted the ship last week and looked fine. And I think they deserve the right to have a chance to prove that they could maybe give Georgia, even with the backup quarterback. Which, by the way, Milton did not play terrible at all on Saturday. They deserve the right. Alabama's defense has been mediocre at best when it comes to Alabama standards. So you can't say they're the same old Alabama, you got to give them a chance. I don't believe that. And honestly, I think most of America, not Alabama fans, but I think most of America is a little burned out and would like to see a different college football for. And though Georgia and Michigan are returners from last year, Georgia's still fairly fresh to this, right? They haven't gone every year like what we were getting with Alabama and Clemson forever. Michigan, this is only their second time. And then if you get TCU, and whether it's Southern Cal or if they lose, let's say there's two losses. Let's say it's TCU and Southern Cal, and they don't put TCU in. I just don't see how you can not put them in. But let's just say, for instance, they don't put them in. Then the second team to me would be Tennessee. But I think it's really a moot point, because if TCU and USC lose, I think TCU would get in, USC would be bumped for Ohio State. And we don't really want to see that. But what we're going to get a rematch of realistically is you'd probably get Ohio State, Michigan rematch in TCU versus Georgia. Because if you look at the power rankings and the way it's perceived, whether it's fair or not, most people perceive Ohio State to be a better team than TCU. So if they have the same record, I think they would rank them third. I think they would have Michigan second. And then Georgia would play TCU, and Ohio State and Michigan would go at it. But any way you look at it, what is Alabama doing ranked above Tennessee? There's not much of a path for either of them to get in, but it's just sheer stupidity at this point. And we go on from batting practice and dive in to a little more other college football. We got baseball on the way. Going to be talking some Dansby Swanson on the other side, and what the Braves can do. And then, of course, other things going on in baseball, as well as two ex-Braves are well overdue for the Hall of Fame. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and get into the college football. They've got the bowl projections, and I think this one was a much better one than the one I was going off of yesterday. I'm only going to highlight a few of them right now, and then we'll probably circle back. But I found it interesting that when you look at some of the teams of interest around the Southeastern Conference. So we talked about the Birmingham Bowl yesterday, the Gators, and it kept being projected as as Central Florida. This one has the Gators and SMU. I still don't like that matchup, but it would be fun if Richardson plays. I don't think he's going to play. I think Richardson's going to worry about the draft and away he goes. So if you don't get Richardson, as a Gator fan, you can kind of see what you have for next year, but as the outside consumer, it's going to be kind of a dud. Other games that I think would be fun and interesting, if we go off of these projections, I know there's a million different projections out there, so at no point do I think that these are in stone. But if you go off of these specific projections, the Cheez-It Bowl now has Oklahoma and Florida State. Now that would be a fun one, flat out, because you're talking about two storied rivalries. One is on the way up and the other one's kind of on the way down, but regardless, there's the familiarity because the head coach at Oklahoma used to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. So there's that. Florida State and Oklahoma have played in many bowl games before, and I think the fan bases would really love that. The Texas Florida State one's a lot of fun. I saw one was LSU and Florida State. I hate that one because those two teams meet each other next year on the field to kick off the 2023 season, much like they did this year in Orlando. So you don't want to have a repeat. And then at that point, you think Norvell or Kelly are going to reveal what they might do against each other come September of 23 when it matters. So I hate that one. But Oklahoma, Florida State would be a lot of fun. The next one up here would be, this is kind of a fun one, Texas versus UCLA in the Alamo. But if we're looking for Southern matchups, so now they've got the Tax Slayer Bowl in Jacksonville saying Notre Dame versus Mississippi State. I like Notre Dame versus South Carolina a lot better than that one. It has more bite to it. The Music City Bowl, Iowa and Kentucky. I think that would be fun for the fan bases. Kentucky will come down and travel. The Kentucky fans will come down to Music City. And by the way, the game is on New Year's Eve. So they would come down and travel. And then one of the others that I just hope this isn't the matchup we get, because I don't think it's a very good matchup. Purdue versus South Carolina on the January 2nd Citrus Bowl. You've got Illinois and LSU squaring off. I think that's kind of a dud, but I can see why they're going to line them up. The Florida Bulls love grabbing these Big Ten schools and bringing them down because a lot of them like to travel, and they travel big time in droves because of the weather up in Big Ten country. So that's how you end up with all of this. An interesting one that probably won't get a lot of fanfare, but I think it would be a really good matchup if it were to happen, would be Texas Tech versus Arkansas, December 28th. That's called the Texas Bowl. And you kind of have to put Wisconsin off to the side because they're going to be bringing in a new coach, and he's not going to be on the sidelines for the guaranteed rate bowl that they have. They're saying Wisconsin versus Baylor. We'll find out all this come Sunday, but this is the most exciting stuff to me on Sunday. It's not the playoffs, because I think the playoffs are going to be pretty much set in stone. I think we're going to know. I mean, come hell or high water, Georgia and Michigan are in. And if TCU and USC win, they're in. And if one of them falls, it opens the door for Southern Cal. And if you're for Ohio State, and if you're an Ohio State fan, you're looking for Southern Cal to lose, because that would guarantee you're going to get in. If TCU loses, there's an argument. I think TCU played a much more difficult schedule if you really look at it top to bottom. but I do think there's a Big Ten bias, and they would probably go with them. All right, we're gonna be back in a flash when we come back. Let's talk about Dansby Swanson. Let's talk about what the Braves might do if they don't get Dansby. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country with the Armchair Quarterbacks, and we've also got a lot of football to get over to you here on Tuesday, November 30th. We will be back in a flash. The Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family, have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope. It's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
No, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and youtube.com at Braves Country.
Hi. What can I get you? I was wondering if you could turn on that television to the Philly San Francisco game.
You gotta be kidding me, man.
No, I understand the Bears game's close and that game's a blowout, but there's a lot of implications on the line here.
We both have players on the Eagles team. He's got Brian Westbrook. I've got Donovan McNabb. It's very close. It would mean a lot to us. I'm sure you can understand.
It was a fantasy football thing. I get it. That was my fault initially.
So you'll change the channel?
No, we can't do it.
Well, if you stand and block the screen, you may just lose your life. And that goes for all 30 friends and 30 friends' wives. Because he's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Welcome back here to Braves Country on the Armchair Quarterbacks, and we are coming to you live. WQEE 99.1 FM. Noonan, Georgia, and then also we are simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country. Please like and subscribe today. Let's go ahead and get into some of the baseball talk. And you look, all eyes are on Dansby Swanson right now in Braves Country, because until he signs or doesn't sign with the Braves, their hands are kind of tied. Now, I do believe, knowing Anthopoulos, if it starts looking like they're not going to get him in the negotiations drag on and on and on, then it wouldn't shock me for him to make a move, whether it's signing somebody or whether it is something like a cheaper option. And you can do a couple of things here. One of the things you could do is you could just put Vaughn Grissom in there to sink or swim. I don't know if that's what they would do, but you could do that. But even if you did put Vaughn Grissom to sink or swim and bat at the bottom of the lineup, and away we go, and we'll just see how he's going. The biggest question that I would have would be, who would you pair him up with? Because I don't think you'd want him to play every day, because when he slumps, et cetera, would they bring in an aging veteran, someone who hasn't performed well recently, but could be not only a good mentor, but also could be a good option off the bench, maybe a left-handed stick like a Didi Gregorius that's out there. But this is a list of the ones that I've put together that I think are realistic options. And here's one that makes a lot of sense for both sides. The Guardians, Cleveland, could use some boning up on their bench as far as the catcher position. And remember, the Braves still have Manny Pena under contract through the end of next year. And unless there's some injury that we're not aware of, they are loaded at the catcher position. They've got Darnode, and then, of course, they got Contreras, who is looking like a budding superstar. We say hi to those in Australia out here on our YouTube channel. We will be talking Dolphins here in a second, so hang with us, JMK. As far as the Braves go, if they don't get him and you get Dansby and you go ahead and you bring in another shortstop and you want an everyday shortstop, I think it's right out there. The Guardians have a guy by the name of Ahmad Rosario, very good shortstop. He has 1 year left on his deal. So I think Cleveland is going to be looking to move him. And if you're not familiar with him, he was one of the guys involved in the deal that Lindor, when he went to New York, he came from New York to Cleveland. But he's a solid shortstop that you could put in, and then maybe you signed some sort of a platoon piece if it's not already going to be Grissom, because they may want to put Grissom down in AAA and see how he develops. They may not just want to jump out there and say, hey, you had a great couple of weeks when you first came up, you faded down the stretch, but well, you know what, we're going to throw you into the fire and just ruin your development altogether. So I know all the reports are out there that he's gone down and worked out with Ron Washington in the offseason, and that's preparing him to have a much bigger role. And maybe the handwriting's on the wall, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a little concerned that they're not going to bring back Dansby, is because why would that leak out if they feel like that they've given the best offer they can give him and he's rejected it? Then where do you go from there? One of the offers that I saw rumored was 6 years, $154 million for Dansby. And they're saying that Dansby's kind of waiting until Trey Turner signs so he sets the market. But if he turned that down, then you almost have to move on, because I don't see the Braves paying more than that. Now, this wasn't confirmed, but 154, you're talking about $25.5 million a year. Or I'm sorry, 25 and a little over 25 and a quarter, essentially, a year. And at his age, I'd be surprised. I'm just shocked that would be the actual number, because I feel like if that was the number, he would jump on it and say, let's go. Because that's well paying over his market. I saw a video yesterday. I go on YouTube quite a bit because our channel's on YouTube, so I kind of get lost down the rabbit hole after the show and whatnot. And I saw one yesterday where the guy's breaking down why the Braves should not sign Dansby, and he was bringing out all these statistics. But I'm like, what you cannot quantify is the fact what Dansby brings to the locker room, what he does on a very daily basis, because he plays every day. So you can't just wash that away. That's a big deal. And if you think it's not, look over at second base, because all last year, essentially for this last half of the year, we did not have Ozzie Albies, and it hurt our team big time. So that's what I'm seeing there. But you would love to move Ozuna. The problem is he's owed 2 years, $37 million. 2 for 37. So that's a lot to move. And you'd probably have to pay the majority of it. And it already looks like that if the Braves are going to make any move in this offseason, they're going to go into the salary cap tax, into it's the first threshold, the first tier, the 233 to I think it's 253 tier. If they're going to do anything, it's going to end up being pushed in that, and they would probably do that for 1 year because the penalty's not that bad. But as far as thinking that I remember towards the end of the season, there were fans out there thinking that the Braves were going to go out, they were going to re-sign Dansby, and if they weren't going to re-sign Dansby, here comes Trey Turner, they're going to sign DeGrom, and they're going to add Rodon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Like, where do you think the Braves payroll is? Because it's not there. Now, they've talked about in the next few years, there'll be a top 5 payroll, and fair enough, but they haven't gotten there yet. They're still in that terrible media contract with Bally that expires soon, but you're still stuck in there. So that's off the jump as far as that goes. Moving Pena will be a priority for someone that needs a good backup catcher or even a starting catcher. He's a phenomenal defensive catcher. Because what is the point of carrying 3? I know you can have it for depth, but you don't want to slow down the maturation of Contreras. And unless he's going to go down and hang out with Wash and learn how to play left field, I don't see it happening. I think he's catcher, he's DH, and that's his limit. You could possibly get him trained in to play some first base to give Olsen a day off every once in a while against a tough lefty, especially if he's slumping. But that's where we're at with that. By the way, Carlos Rodon did meet with the Mets yesterday. So keep an eye on that, because if they sign Rodon, does that mean they would give up on DeGrom, or would they just go full bore and sign both of them? And then you got a 3-headed monster of Scherzer, DeGrom, and Rodon. That would be a ridiculous starting 3. But once again, I think the Mets would met, and the Braves would find a way to win that division, just because that's what's in their DNA at this point. And that's why signing Dansby Swanson, I think, is a huge deal. It's got nothing to do with everyone wants to look at the BABIP and the OPS plus and et cetera, et cetera. Say, well, he's not worth this because this guy's not worth that. Hardly anyone's ever worth their contract. You're paying them for what they did and what you hope that they will contribute to in the very near future. And the tail end, you're usually sucking BBs, but it is what it is. So we move on from that. And the other thing would be, obviously, all eyes are on Judge, where he signs. I really do think he ends up in San Francisco. I know a lot of people think that's a strange one, but he's from Cali. I think he took it very personally that the Yankees didn't want to go all in. Now, the rumor now is that they offered 8 years, $300 million to Judge. And if that's the case, I think that's going to be hard to beat. But is he happy? The way when he would get interviewed towards the end of the season, you could always kind of read between the tea leaves, and I just question it. I really do. I question whether or not he was happy across the board. But some of the other names that are going to be out there on the free agent market that isn't getting near enough play would. Okay, so now it's being reported came out with an offer around $330 million. If that's the case, that's got to be 10 years, because just going off the AAV of what they've been willing to buy. If the Yankees are doing this, they're not going to get what they're worth at the tail end of it. Aaron Judge, by the last 3 or 4 years of his contract, he's going to be relegated to probably a designated hitter role. And most likely not be worth his weight in gold, but you're paying that for a few reasons. A, what he did for you this year. You don't really, if you're the Yankees, you don't want him wearing another uniform after he just broke the home run record. No matter what side of the fence you're on, he broke the American League home run record. That's for sure. I contend he broke the Major League Baseball home run record because I can't count any of the people who are doing steroids. If it wasn't that big a deal, then all the veterans who were in the Hall of Fame would say, sure, let him in. But you never get that from any of these guys. They're all on the same page of you cheated, you didn't deserve it. So if they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, they don't deserve the accolades. They don't deserve the accolades of going into the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk Hall of Fame here in a second. But if it's 8 to 10 years, 330, how do you beat that? Because the other thing the Yankees are looking at is that if they get Judge in there and they get him in there on an 8 to 10 year deal, especially if they can get it done here in the next few weeks, everybody's new Christmas present is going to have something to do with Aaron Judge and the Yankees in the New York area. And that comes into play. Even if you don't get it done by Christmas time, everybody's going to want to rush out and buy something new about Judge. So that's there's the marketing aspect that goes into it as well. I know a lot of these fans already have Judge unis, but some of them might have been, what about the older guy who's put on a few LBs and goes, I need a new jersey, but I'm not buying Judge till I know he's staying. So, or the younger kid who's growing up and he needs a new jersey, wants a new jersey. Nobody needs a jersey. Well, wants a new jersey. And all this goes into play. It's the same thing with Dansby Swanson. He's one of the few Braves jerseys that I don't have that I would like to have, but I'm waiting to see if he resigns before I go out and do that. I have a Freddie Freeman jersey I don't wear anymore. I won't wear it. Not as long as he's playing for the Dodgers and he retires. I've let bygones be bygones about that. I think he got tricked by his agent. And you could tell by the emotion, Freddie really wished he would have stayed. So I give him a pass. I still can't stomach to watch him in a Dodger uniform. That's one that hit me hard. It's a lot like when Dale Murphy was in a Phillies uniform. Much different circumstances at the end of his career, but I did not like that at all. And speaking of Dale Murphy, the contemporary ballots are out for the Hall of Fame. And he is one of the names that is on that ballot. And I'm going to give you him and one other guy that are well overdue and two other guys that I think should be in there. We'll be back in a flash here after the break. Be back in 2 and 2. You're listening to Braves Country. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your home for the SEC.
Back third down on the 8. In trouble. Got a block behind him. Going to throw on a run. Complete to the 25. To the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 41. Lindsey, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Lindsey stop. Lindsey stop. Lindsey stop.
Armchair.
Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is handpicked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
Coach, how do you feel about your past season?
Well, it's been a very rewarding season for us. It's one that I would not have been able to lay my job on the line saying we're going to win 9 ball games. I couldn't have done it before the year. And it's been, we were hoping definitely to have a winning season, for the first time in a long time. And it's just been an excellent season as far as the way things turned out are concerned.
Can you say how you brought a losing Florida State team around to be a winning one?
No, I can't. Number one, we've got some real fine assistant coaches that I think know what they're doing, and they work very hard at football, spend a lot of time on it. And even more important than that is the attitude of our players who knew what they wanted to accomplish and had confidence that they could do it, and were willing to work.
Armchair.
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Prime time, drive time. The Armchair Quarterbacks good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterback.
They've given me less than 1 year to turn this place around. Forget about the way it used to be. This is not a damn democracy. We are in a state of emergency, and my word is law.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Welcome back.
Yeah, the armchair quarterback. He's kind of fun and he's kind
Braves Country here on WQEE and simulcasting on youtube.com/Braves Country, part of the Armchair Quarterback Radio Network. Let's go ahead and jump into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. They're calling it the Contemporary Committee. First of all, there's too many of these committees that are giving everybody a second chance. Okay, so, and I'm okay with one committee, but it kind of goes back to that old joke. I don't even remember what show it was on, but it was, we've got the committee to discuss the committee to form a committee. But anyways, this is how Harold Baines got in. Nothing against him personally, but Harold Baines is not an MLB Hall of Famer. The MLB Hall of Fame, or the National Baseball Hall of Fame, but it's all well and known that it's for Major League Baseball, anything related to Major League Baseball. You don't get Mike Martin in there because he leads all college baseball. They've got their own Hall of Fame, right? But when we're talking about who's on this list, if you're going to have it, and they're probably going to put in 2, maybe 3, and I've got their pictures up on the board here on our YouTube channel. We'll go through each one of them, and I'm going to give you a really quick yes or no answer to them. Really quick, because I don't think it's one of these gut feelings that I have. And I don't think it's necessarily one of these head scratchers where you have to sit here and wonder, well, does a guy deserve it? Does a guy not deserve it? Go through the OPS plus, blah, blah, blah. First of all, you have to put them in vacuums because they all played in different eras. But the first one up on the board is Albert Bell. And Albert Bell had 1,239 RBI over 12 seasons. So what does that tell you? You average over 100 RBIs a season. And it all can't be, well, he didn't play long enough. Because what's Sandy Koufax doing in there? Right? You want to go the football route, what's Barry Sanders doing in there? You have to go by what they did. Now, if they only had like 5 or 6 good years, I get that, and then there was a decline. But Albert Bell was a beast. He was a very controversial guy and kind of got blackballed out of the league. But he was never mixed in with the steroid guys. He came just before that. And in that 12 seasons, averaging over 100 RBI a year. How do you not put, he batted 295 lifetime. 564 slug, a 144 OPS plus. But if that's not good enough for you, and if that's kind of like, well, you're using older stats, the average batting average doesn't mean anymore, which I don't believe that. And I think it's going to come into play now that the shift is gone. Albert Bell became the first player in baseball, in Major League Baseball history, to record 50 plus homers and 50 plus doubles in a single season. And Albert Bell deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's waited long enough. It's ridiculous that he's not in. When the Braves won it in 95, You best believe we were worried about Albert Bell at the plate. Barry Bonds, really quick and really simple. Not putting him in. I'm not putting anyone in who is a known steroid user. You can't even debate Bonds. Guy's head got as big as a freaking cantaloupe overnight. And though he was one of the best players to ever play the game, he didn't do it the right way. And I do not recognize the 762 because 755 is the number, the great Hank Aaron. So I don't even want to discuss Bonds. Same thing with Clemens. You can say, well, he was a great pitcher, but do you remember the decline he had? And then he went up there and started shooting the roids, and all of a sudden had a big turnaround in Toronto, and then carried that on in the Bronx. If he would have continued to fade, there's no way that Roger Clemens would be even up for the discussion, because he would have almost been, he would have been a little bit of an argument. He'd been a real iffy guy. And if he stuck around for a few more years, he probably would have eventually got in. But he wouldn't have been a first ballot, because when he left Boston, it was because he was a little bit on the decline and Toronto took a chance. And then here came the era of the roids. Okay. Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball. This is one of the more questionable ones, because Don Mattingly had a very good, we'll say 6-year span from 84 to 89. He was hitting 327, 160 home runs, which back then 160 over 6 years was nothing to sneeze at. It's a different era. 257 doubles, almost 700 RBI in the 7-year span. He had a 902 OPS, and he won the AL MVP in 85. He also won 9 Golden Gloves. He was named captain of the Yankees, which is no easy feat. But the problem is he had such a big drop off because of back problems after 87. Now, if he would have started shooting steroids in his behind, he probably could have gotten through that. And that's why I have the problems with the Bondses and whatnot, because it's not just what they did prior to the steroids, but it's also what the steroids and the HGH did to help them fight through it. The guy that does deserve to be in, played all over the place, but we'll claim him as one of our own, Fred McGriff, the crime dog. And I think if he gets 500 home runs, he's already in. How absurd it is that 493, just 7 short, when you take it across the entire landscape of his career, we're going to complain about 7 home runs. He played 19 years. We're talking about a third of a home run a season that we're going to split hairs about. He had 5 30 home run seasons, or excuse me, he had 6 30 home run seasons with 5 different teams. He was a World Series champion with the 95 Braves. But that's not the only reason why I think he should be in. 7 home runs short of 500, 10 hits short of 2,500. And his career 284, batting average in 886 OPS, it's off the charts. It's absurd. I think the reason why he's not in is because towards the end of his career, he kind of bounced around, so people don't have like a brand to put him with. But I say he goes in as Atlanta Brave. And then the one that I think is the most ridiculous of all, the fact that he's not on there, is Dale Murphy. Dale Murphy. Now, I will preface this with saying, growing up as a young kid, as a Braves fan, my favorite player. And following his career in the early 80s is one of the reasons why I became such a big baseball fan. Because we were getting, I kind of lived all over as a kid, but the one thing you knew is that you were going to get the Braves on TBS on the Superstation, no matter where we were. And so I grew up watching him. And I remember distinctly when Dale Murphy in 82 and 83 won the MVPs. I just started watching baseball. 83 was the last year, was the first year that I watched it start to finish, excuse me. 82 is when I can remember watching the 82 playoffs and the 82 World Series between the Cardinals and the Brewers. But I also kind of remember the 82 start of the Braves when they went 13-0. Like I remember that being, so I was starting to understand what baseball was. I was a very young kid. But by 84, spring training in 84, he was my guy because he had won back-to-back World Series. And I'd gotten, it was like a Sports Illustrated that came to the house and it was on there. And that was my guy. He was, if Michael Jack Schmidt didn't exist in the 1980s, Dale Murphy was the best hitter of the 1980s in the National League. Now, Michael Jack Schmidt, I think you have to put him up there past Murphy. But that doesn't mean Murphy doesn't go to the Hall of Fame. It's absurd. Murphy also, even after he won the MVP in 82 and 83, he followed that up with leading the National League in home runs in 84 and 85. So for 4 straight years, he was the best to do it in the National League. The reason why his teams fell off and the reason why he did not get the MVP votings in 84 and 85 is because the Braves had fallen off and they weren't in the playoff hunts. So first and foremost, I'm putting McGriff in. I'm putting Murphy in. And it's not even up for discussion. Rafael Palmeiro, that guy sat there in the camera, lied to Congress. It was almost like a Bill Clinton moment. I did not have relations with that steroid needle. That's exactly what he did. And then he comes out, he's like, he did. He lied to us. So that's even worse than what Bonds and Clemens have done, which have just hid from the press. So I'm not even willing to argue. But I'll tell you what, if you ever do put Clemens and you put Bonds in, you got to put Palmeiro in, because Palmeiro was an elite hitter for a long time in the American League. I think he gets overshadowed in that era because he played for Baltimore, and they are not must-see TV year in and year out. The next guy that I'm putting in, I know he's controversial. I know a lot of people don't like him because of his politics, and I get that. But if you take every single person out of the Hall of Fame because you don't like them as a person off the field, or you don't like their personality off the field, be a very lonely hall. Curt Schilling, to me, is one of the best pitchers who did it the right way of that generation. And he was 11-2 with a 2.23 ERA in the postseason. And if I'm going to stand up on my soapbox and talk about how great John Smoltz was, and he had to go in, then I've got to follow that with Curt Schilling, because he really was the American League version of John Smoltz. I know that he had success with Arizona, but I really think of him more as an American League pitcher until the end of his career. But the bloody sock alone, willing his team back from the Yankees, he's got to go on the Hall of Fame. It really is ridiculous. And so that's the list. And I know a lot of folks out there would probably not agree with that list all in all, but the 4 guys, I left out Bell, McGriff, Murphy, and Schilling, they're all overdue. Every single one of them. Who do I think's going to get in? I think you'll probably get Murphy in. And I think they're probably possibly Bell. But once again, these writers hold these vendettas against a guy they didn't like off the field and did that trickle over. Now, the contemporary committee, it's a different audience. And so, by the way, they have to get 75% of the vote from the contemporary committee. And I don't have the number in front of me, but I know most of the committees are like a 16 committee. So basically you need 12 votes. I don't think they're going to put Bonds and Clemens in, or Palmero for that matter, because I don't think they want to be associated with the guys. Because remember, after they get inducted, they had all these people who vote have to answer. And I don't think they want to answer to their peers and say, hey, why'd you put him in? Now, I remember a couple of years ago when they put Harold Baines in, and this is a different committee, I believe. They had some eye rolls and some questions there too. But once again, if you're going to go off of that route, and I don't want to lower the bar just because they made one mistake, but if Harold Baines is a Hall of Famer, you bet your sweet patootie Dale Murphy, Curt Schilling, Fred McGriff, and absolutely Albert Bell are Hall of Famers. It does not make any sense. And you can't put everyone's politics because you are from the right side or the left side of the aisle. I don't care about that. This is sports. And you got to understand something too. When these guys get inducted, and if they get inducted, they have to answer questions from the media because they get peppered with interviews. Not to mention they're going to have to go to the Hall of Fame ceremonies, get their speech, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't like where someone's coming from, remember they're going to have to endure that. That's one of the reasons why I don't think Schilling's going to get in, because I think a lot of folks are still holding what Schilling, and I'm not defending what Schilling did at all. But what I'm saying is that I think they're going to hold it against him. But regardless, McGriff, Bell, and Murphy have got to get in. Murphy is so overdue. How many of us out there in the Gen Xers where Dale Murphy was our hero? And he's such a great guy on and off the field. Come on, let's go. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive back into football. We're going to talk the NFL. And what about those Dolphins? And Doug's on the way. We're going to try to have him piece together what in the world is going on out west with the AFC West. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country with the Armchair Quarterbacks.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Choose your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The new college football playoff rankings are out. The Georgia Bulldogs remain at #1. Michigan follows up at #2, TCU 3, and the Southern Cal Trojans finish out the top 4. On their heels, #5, Ohio State, Alabama Crimson Tide at 6, the Tennessee Volunteers at 7. Penn State, Clemson, and Kansas State round out the top 10. College basketball tonight in the Southeastern Conference. The Georgia Bulldogs host Hampton. That game is at 7 o'clock Eastern. Vanderbilt is at VCU. That game can be seen on CBS Sports Network. The Tennessee Volunteers, ranked 13th in the land. They are at home against McNeese on SEC Network, 7:15. And later on, you've got A&M hosting SMU. The Gators against Florida A&M, and South Carolina travels to George Washington. In ACC action, you got a big one. #25, Ohio State at #17, Duke. That game is on ESPN. 7:15 is the tip-off. On the deuce, #5, Purdue is at Florida State. Rutgers at Miami. #18, North Carolina at #10, Indiana. Michigan State is at Notre Dame. And the late tilt, Boston College, Nebraska, will finish up the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And in the NBA, the Hawks are at the Magic tonight, 7 o'clock tip-off. You've got an NBA TV doubleheader. Heat are at the Celtics at 7:30 Eastern, and the Trailblazers at the Lakers. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated. Braves Country with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is handpicked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. Little Bites? That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute? I love Little Bites. I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay? Got it. As I was saying, whenever I bring home you know what, you know who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious. I love Little Bites. There you go. Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffin, the perfect portion of happiness.
You're not sick tonight, are you? Good. Your tongue's going to be hanging out. Tell him to throw up on his own time.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, home of Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, and youtube.com at Braves Country.
Stupid interviews. Hey, you're a member of the Buffalo Bills. How does it feel?
Well, it's a blessing. I want to thank God. Going to try to do my best. It's a great organization. And I'll say the last 80 guys said. So, yeah.
The Armchair Quarterback. He's trying to find it. He's trying to bet. The All-American man.
Welcome back. We're going to head right back into some football talk, and the NFL gets going back again tomorrow night. Bills, Patriots, and the Bills, by the way, if you're looking at this line, you're whether or not, well, I don't know, should I take the line? Should I not take the line? Right now, they are favored by 4. It's in New England. The Bills' entire locker room is fighting the flu bug. Right now, there's been reported about 5 to 7 people that are not practicing because of the flu bug, and they don't know if they're going to play. The game is obviously tomorrow night, and so just when you think something like COVID's gone, here we go again. Now, it hasn't been reported that it's COVID, but regardless, if your team can't play, if your team can't practice, how prepared are you going to be going into tomorrow night? They're giving up 4 points on the road. Keep that in mind, because New England, they're not flashy, and not everyone's in love with the New England Patriots with the way they play ball. Mac Jones is turning into what almost like a poor man's Tom Brady. I think he can continue to get even better. But at this point, right now, he is a ring below where Brady was at this time in his career. But you never know what Belichick, and if Belichick can be, and that defense is playing very well. If Belichick can game plan with the best of them, and I think Belichick really wants to prove that he can do it. So I think Belichick's going to hang around to try to get that next Super Bowl or die trying. Real quick, dude, I did get a question here about Pete Rose. Do I think he should be in the Hall of Fame? You know, this is one of the most loaded conversations. I think if you're going to put him in, then Shoeless Joe's got to go in. I think everyone's focused on Pete Rose because they saw him play. But Shoeless Joe Jackson was arguably the best in the world at the time of his suspension. His lifetime batting average still ranks 4th all time. Shoeless Joe Jackson was highly revered by everybody. So, if you and I know Pete Rose always says, well, I bet it on my team to win. First of all, how do we know that? Second of all, if you're a manager and you're betting on your team to win, did that not affect the games around it? Meaning if you bet on your team to win Tuesday night, did you dump out your bullpen and affect Wednesday night and Thursday night? So what I've always said with that is, if we're going to have the discussion about putting Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, Shoeless Joe has to go in first. And then if you put Pete Rose in, I do believe in giving people second chances. And my word, it's been 30 years. And he claims that the commissioner of baseball was going to let him in after a few years, and then the commissioner of baseball died. But Pete Rose also has said a lot of other things that we found out were not true. Remember, at one point, for all of y'all out there that weren't around to see this, he vehemently denied that he ever gambled on baseball. And then he finally came clean and said, well, maybe I did, but I didn't bet on the Reds. Well, maybe I did. So if you're going to put Pete Rose in, you have to put in Shoeless Joe. And if you want to chime in on that, yay or nay, the number to call is 678-960-9700. That's 678-960-9700. Back to the NFL. Bills Patriots. Once again, you got to be on the lookout for. I'm a little leery now. I thought about taking the Bills. I think right now, if I'm going to take it, I'm going to take the Pats plus the 4. I'm probably steering away from it. What I really like is the under in that game. The over-under in that game, let me double check and see what it is right now. I'm sharing the screen on our YouTube channel, but you can't see it all because you have to condense the screen. The over-under is 43.5. I teased that. I teased it with the under on Monday night's game, and that covered. So I'm hoping for the tease. I believe it was a 6-point teaser. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe I did a 6-point teaser. And so I'm trying to keep the number under 49.5. There's times where I'll pay the extra to go 7-point teaser, though most of your gambling experts tell you that is a terrible idea. I always go with, well, if it works, it's not a terrible idea, but they're talking about long-term if you're trying to make a living off of this, and I am not trying to do that. I think I'm more likely to be on the side of give me the under. And it's funny, Caesar has already moved it again, so it's gone down to 3.5, and maybe it's because of the news about them having the flu. But if you like that spread, you better jump on it quick, because the sharps are going to start laying some money on it, and then your average, I call them, armchair guys like us, or Joe Six-Pack, whatever you want to use. But your average armchair guy is going to realize this around tomorrow afternoon. when he decides to bet. And you're going to see that line go down. It'll probably go down. Honestly, it'll probably go down to around under 3, 2.5 and whatnot. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's a lot of money has to go in on the underdog to move that. The Dolphins, by the way, saw the comment earlier, and I did want to hit that a little bit. Dolphins are 8-3. First of all, I would love to know what the tie is to the Miami Dolphins in Australia. So we had one gentleman that has been on the show before, and I think we're going to get him back on again in the near future, who lives in Australia, loves the Dolphins. And over the years, I've seen several Dolphin fans in Australia come in on our YouTube station. I'm just wondering, is that a team that they always get on TV there? It amazes me. Or is it just like the link to the 70s Dolphins, is if it's an older crowd, or is it a younger crowd that's jumping on Tua? By the way, playing it wouldn't give it service, give it the right service it deserves. But some of these clips that are coming out for Mike McDaniel, this guy is not your average NFL coach, and it's kind of refreshing to see. I mean, unless they're editing these videos, and I don't believe they are with the audio, he's over there talking to Tua about seeing, early video of him about how he had a terrible delivery, giving him a hard time. And then at one point he's talking to his coordinators up in the box and talking about how Georgia's the best team in college football. And this is in the middle of the game. So it's kind of refreshing to see this, that they're all not of the same Bill Belichick, give you one line answers. You remember, I really feel like Jimmy Johnson was the one that first came into the league that people realized, and there were guys that are already doing, but people realized, because it was well documented, because it was that time of the media, of how much Jimmy Johnson lived, eat, and breathed his football facility. He rarely went home during the off season, during the regular season. He lived, whether it was at the Cowboys facility, not so much when he was at Miami, because you're constantly have to go out and recruit. And back then you couldn't recruit other than go up and realistically going up. And back then they had all these ridiculous rules, but you couldn't call people too many times. So you have to go visit them at their house. But it's kind of refreshing to see all of the newer coaches who might give a different spice to the NFL. Now they're going to have to win, and the Dolphins are winning. That's for sure. They're 8-3, tied with the Bills, but they have a lead in the division. And remember, they beat the Bills in week 3, and they will play the Bills in a couple of weeks in Buffalo. So let's just say the Bills hold serve and win that game. You're probably going to be looking at a situation down the stretch where, let's just say for argument's sake, the Bills win that game. So the head-to-heads are tied. Bills are 0-2 in the division right now. So that would put Miami at 2-2. And what the Bills do going forward against the Jets, against the Patriots, the Bills at one point, I'd say after week 2, everybody was ready to crown them Super Bowl champs. They'd blown out the Super Bowl champion Rams, which today is not impressive at all. If this was college football, they'd be free falling in the polls. And then week 2, they blew out the Titans on Monday night, but you can't take anything away from them on that. It was an impressive win, but then right after that, they lose to the Dolphins. And then they get back on a roll. Everyone's like, okay, whatever. But when they go back-to-back weeks losing to the Jets and losing to the Vikings on that just roller coaster of a ride, they've got to right the ship. And their next 3 games are imperative to their season. They're at the Patriots, at home against the Jets, and at home against the Dolphins. And they're going to finish it up against the Patriots. Conversely, if you're looking at the Miami Dolphins and what they've got on the docket, the Miami Dolphins, who were at San Francisco this week, this week, then they go to the Chargers. So they're on the West Coast 2 consecutive weeks, and on the road 3 consecutive weeks, at the 49ers, at the Chargers, and at the Bills. They come home against the Packers, and then they're at the Patriots and finish it all off with the Jets at home. They've got a rough road. They've had some, I'm not going to say every game in the NFL is a difficult win, but they've had a few layups here recently. And they are going to go into, I mean, let's be honest, Lions, Bears, Browns, Texans, that's not exactly a murderer's row, and that's their last 4 games. Steelers, you can put the Steelers on. Steelers, Lions, Bears, Browns, Texans. But the key part is they won them all. And not everybody puts it in front of them. The Bucks lost to the Browns. The Bears have came in and won some games from teams that they didn't think they were going to win. So the point is they've won the 5 in a row, but they're all against really the Dolphins season is kind of a tale of three halves, so to speak, because they win their first 3, they lose the next 3, and then they win their last 5. Now, what are they going to do on these last 5? Assuming they don't win the Buffalo game, because it's in Buffalo. If they win 3 of the last 5, I think they're in pretty good shape. They get the Packers at home, and that should be a W. At the Chargers, going to be tough. At the 49ers, I don't suspect that they're going to beat the 49ers. The Chargers, that's up in the air. But you've got 3 games of your last 5 that you could realistically be the favorite in: Chargers, Packers, and Patriots, depending on where the Patriots are. And going into this week, the Dolphins are a 4-point underdog. The over-under is 46.5. I don't get a good feeling on either one of those lines. That's a lot of points to give up to Tua and the boys. I feel like San Francisco's going to get it the win because it's at home, but I think it's going to be a hard-fought win. I would be hesitant to give up the 4. The 46.5 seems low to me because the Dolphins have given up points and the Dolphins score points. And anytime you get the Dolphins in a low over-under, I usually jump on it. I usually say, well, let's ride. We're going to go ahead and take a really quick break. When we come back, Red Raider Doug's going to join us, and we're going to talk some more football and anything else that may come up. You're listening to Braves Country on WQEE.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ. Right out 1 second left. What a play by Bird.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
ACC football covered like no other here on the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Out of the shotgun, 3rd down and about 10. Ward getting some pressure, getting forward, gets it away. He's got front, touchdown, Florida State.
That's what we're looking to you. Georgia Tech 45, Nebraska 21. It's now up to the voters. They look like the number one, don't they? All right, 6 seconds to go. Maurer throws it up for grabs. There's 5 defenders back there. Game runs out. And Clemson wins the national championship of college football. This is for the national championship for Nebraska. And for Miami, an absolutely miracle year. The dream season as they come back from a bad loss opening day to go to 11 straight wins in an off probability when the votes are in. A first ever national championship for the Hurricane.
Take the scenic route in the new Hyundai Santa Fe, the family SUV with available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you travel way off the beaten path. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. drive time on WQEE.
Yo, you don't even know what stupid is. It's about to get all stupid up in here.
Original melody. Why did John Lennon have to be the one to get shot? Something's wrong.
Welcome back. We are riding along here, drive time, WQEE, and Red Raider Doug makes his first appearance here on the WQEE family. How are you, Doug? You got to unmute yourself, Doug. Some things never change.
Hi, I'm glad to be
There
here.
you go.
Finally.
How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. Glad to be here on this first Wednesday.
Looks like you got a brand new shirt there. I like it.
Oh, yeah, that was a birthday gift from one of my clients.
When was your birthday?
On Monday.
Well, happy birthday, sir. I did not know that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
What are you, 17, 18 years old about now?
Just brand new 17-year-old. Woo!
To be 17 again.
Yep.
Do you even remember 17? I barely do.
No, that's
I
been in
think
my
I know what I was thinking, but I don't know what I was thinking at 17, to be honest with you. I know what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I was gonna say. But that's
Okay,
that's way back in the windshield in the past.
Okay, so moving on to some NFL talk. Your Raiders pull off a shocker in Seattle. They still have a pulse, not much of one, but they still have a pulse going into this weekend's game. Obviously, this weekend's game is a must win.
Every week is a must win, but yep, definitely nothing. Playing the Chargers, and I tell you, I don't know, Oh, okay.
So playing the Chargers, they're at home. They're playing the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are what they were last year, but then again, they are what they were last year because you don't know which Charger team is going to turn up, and you got a chance to win every week against the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you put this game as far as, okay, so right now the Chargers, for whatever reason, are favored in Las Vegas, which I find a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think it should, if nothing else, it should be a pick 'em.
Yeah.
If nothing else, that's what we're looking at. But if you look at the AFC wild card, the Raiders right now are sitting at 4-7. They are, let's see, they're 3 games back of the wild card with 5 to go. Obviously, every game is a must win, but you also never know what the teams in front of you are going to do. Of all these teams up here, and I'm talking about the ones who could fall out of favor, so we'll take 4 on down, because I think the Titans have pretty much locked up the division. And I think no matter what, the Dolphins and Chiefs will find their way into the playoffs no matter what happens.
I agree with that.
You look at Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, the Jets, New England, the Chargers, the Colts, Jacksonville, and the Raiders. And realistically, the teams with 4-7 don't have a lot of a chance, but I give them a better. I give the Jaguars and the Colts a better chance. The Jaguars and the Raiders a better chance than the Colts, because the Colts have already played 12 games, excuse me. It throws you off and you see 7-1, but they've already played 12 games. This will be the 12th game. So of all those teams, it happens every year, at least 3 of them free fall. I don't know who they're going to be, but there's going to be 3 teams that are going to free fall and won't be able to buy a win down the stretch. So if you win the rest out, 9-7, and a wing and a prayer, you might be able to get into the playoffs. What say you?
It's possible. I mean, look at it. We got to play Jacksonville this year. One of our remaining games is against Jacksonville. We've got the Chargers this week. So we do ourselves a favor, because that helps us climb right up the ladder right there. The only games I'm worried about is we've got a game with San Francisco.
Jacksonville game's already been played, though.
What's that?
They've already beaten.
Did we play Jacksonville already? We lost that one already. That's one, right? Yeah. Never mind. I'll take that back. But I don't know. I don't like our chances, because we've got
Jacksonville straight up with the in other words, you can't fall into a tie with Jacksonville, because the first tiebreaker is going to be head to head. Now, if you end up with like a 5-way tie, sometimes you can have lost to 1 or 2 teams and they go to different tiebreakers. Sometimes that works out. But if it's just Jacksonville which I don't think Jacksonville is going to be there, don't get me wrong. But if it were just down to those 2, Jacksonville gets the nod.
And then even if Jacksonville tumbled, we'd have to get past Indy, who we've already lost to as well. So it's a deep, deep ladder. And also, we have games against San Francisco and Kansas City at the end of the season. So last 2 games, I think, are San Francisco 1 week, and then the final week is Kansas City. So
yeah, the final 5 games or 6 games, 6 games that the Raiders have is Chargers at home, then they're at the Rams and at home against the Patriots. And then the second half of that is at the Steelers, at home against San Fran, and at home against the Chiefs.
That's what I'm saying. I think we've got good matchups. I think we can beat the Rams. I think we can beat the Chargers this week. It's those last 2 games, and I have a feeling that if we were to make the playoffs, we'd have to get upset wins in those final 2 weeks to make the last wild card. And that also depend on Jacksonville free falling and the Colts free falling as well. So it's a steep climb. It's possible, but I don't like it. I'm a Raiders fan. I love them.
For all intents and purposes, I would cut off the playoff. What's realistic, I would cut it off to where the Chargers are. This game is a must for the Chargers, just like New England has to beat Buffalo, because if they don't, becomes very, very difficult task. 7 teams are going to make the playoffs. I feel like there's 9 teams on the actual real argument for it. The 7 that are in now and on the outside looking in are New England and the Chargers. But stranger things have happened, and there always tends to be, of all these teams up here, like I said, I'm going 4 down just because these other 3 teams, if they don't win the division, especially Miami and Kansas City, they've got a good enough record where they'll probably be in the wild card. But the Titans essentially have a 4-game lead in their division with 5 to go, or 6.
I know, and that's the interesting thing about the Titans. It drives me crazy, I guess, from a betting point of view and just watching this team. It's like I never know which Titans are going to show up from week to week. They're a better team than the way they play, and they drive me nuts. They are where they're supposed to be, I guess, but you always feel like they could play like 50% better. There's something missing. They're a better team than they look like.
Here's the thing. They can beat anybody in the NFL, but they can also be very susceptible to a team that's good against the run, which the Bengals are. And that's what lost in the Bengals game. And also that ridiculously should have been non-call of making contact with the snapper on the final field goal there to give him an automatic first. You never see that called in big you never see it called period, but you never see it called in big moments, right?
Sure.
So that was just a bad job by the refs, because you got to have some common sense. Yeah, let them play, right? Let the kids play.
Look up.
It's the same reason why on a 3-2 count, bases loaded, you'll rarely ever see a check swing end a game.
Right.
So it's a really goofy thing but looking outside the Titans, because I think they really do have that division set up, and I don't think they're going to get a bye, because they're not going to have the tiebreaker on Kansas City, and they're not going to have the tiebreaker on Buffalo if Buffalo climbs back in. And I feel like the Titans are going to be playing that first weekend, but they will be at home. Now it'll be a fun one. They'll probably play someone like the Jets or the Patriots or whatever. But moving on from that, the NFC North has gotten really interesting, because if you look at the way the NFC North is now, the Ravens and Bengals are in a flat-footed tie. And that's an important seeding matter, because even if they both make the playoffs, you want that first game at home. Their conference records are identical. One of the things that's going to hurt the Bengals is that they are 1-3 in the division. And now, granted, they finished the season in Cincinnati versus Baltimore, but Baltimore's already won the first game head to head.
Right.
They're 1-3 in the division, and the Ravens are 2-0. So that's going to be tough. You're going to have to get, basically what the Ravens have next. They are, well, let's go with the Chiefs. What the Chiefs have next, Bengals have next, is the Chiefs at home, which is a big game. They're at home against the Browns. They're at the Bucks, at the Patriots, home against the Bills, and home against the Ravens. They don't really have a layup there. The Browns, maybe.
Browns, maybe. Look, the Bengals game this week with the Chiefs, I've got the Bengals winning that game. The Chiefs played terribly. It's a fall game for the Chiefs, because the Bengals have had their number for a while now.
Okay, fair enough.
Bad match.
Fair enough. And I'm not saying that the Chiefs won't win that game, but the rest of that stretch, it's a long stretch to basically have to go undefeated, right?
Basically, yeah, they'd have to run the table.
Because when you listen to who's Baltimore playing, and it begins this week at home against the Broncos, that is by far the worst offense in the last 20 years in the National Football League. Let's ride Bronco country.
The Broncos are more dysfunctional than the Raiders are, just to give you an idea.
Well, they are screwed because I probably won't be able to get to the clip today, but I'll definitely play it this week. They're screwed because of the way the contract is constructed with Russell Wilson. They basically, they can't cut him, they can't trade him, because the dead cap money is just going to kill him. Which is why Wilson wanted it designed that way, because he wants a chance to play the next 4 years in Denver. But listen to Baltimore's season, schedule the rest of the way. Home against the Broncos, at the Steelers, at the Browns, and home against the Falcons, who have been feisty, but it's a home game.
Right.
At home against the Steelers, and then at the Bengals. I don't think they'll run the table, don't get me wrong, but I think of those 6 games that they have left, they very easily will win 4.
Yeah.
Which means if you were,
I mean, that's good.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just
honestly,
saying if the Broncos go in and lose, which I would assume they would, that Steeler game is going to be tough because anytime they play the Steelers, especially on the road, it doesn't. You can kind of throw the records out, and the Steelers, by the way, are getting better. I really think that Pickett's starting to turn a corner. I also believe they're coming off a loss. I believe the Steelers are going. I really think the Falcons are going to beat the Steelers in Atlanta this week. But
yes,
with
I
all
do
that
too.
being said, Steelers, they get the Steelers twice, they get the Browns, and they get the Bengals, and they get the Broncos. And let's not pretend like the Falcons have been world beaters.
Right.
They don't have that daunting schedule that Cincinnati has. So if Cincinnati wins that division, they've earned it. But I think Baltimore's still going to win that division, which means Cincinnati's going to have to go on the road. Would we get another rematch of Tennessee-Cincinnati first round? Or
very well could be.
Or could they be headed to? It could line up where they play Baltimore in the first round.
I could see back-to-back weeks with that. Yeah, they play them in the last week and then have to turn around and play them again. Even though that's one thing with Baltimore. These Baltimore Ravens, they don't with Cincinnati. Well, I can almost say a pick 'em. You don't know which one's going to show up because these Ravens don't have that domination over the Bengals in past years. So you could easily see Cincinnati taking back-to-back wins from them. Cincinnati's, I think it's just that much more of a better team than they are, because I don't think the Ravens can consistently beat them.
Yes,
their pass is lackluster. So, and that's where, if you give Burrow all day, I don't care where you play, whether it be Baltimore or Cincinnati, he will carve you up, and that's a problem for the Ravens.
And the other thing, after going over those two teams in that division, let's say Baltimore cruises, goes 5-1, whatever, and they win their division. That gives them a very good chance of possibly catching Kansas City and getting that bye. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a great chance of it happening. But even though Kansas City only has 2 losses, they're going to the Bengals this week. I'm with you. I think they've got a very good chance of losing that game.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the Broncos. It's never easy to win in Mile High. Plus, it's a divisional game. It's different when someone outside the division is playing the Broncos. They usually have them for.
Yep.
They usually, chew them up like a ham sandwich. But you never know with that. They do have an easier slate than a team like the Bengals, per se. They go to the Texans, at home against Seattle, at home against the Broncos again, and at the Raiders. Not likely, but if you are a Ravens fan, you really are looking and hoping for at least 3 losses down the stretch. So that probably won't happen. And if that doesn't happen, then Kansas City would get that final bye, because remember, nowadays you only get 1 bye in each conference, not 2 like we did in years past.
And that's why, even though it may seem like a lopsided game, that Raiders Chiefs game, no matter what state the Raiders are in, that may decide what we're talking about as well. That may decide whether Kansas City has that first round bye or not. If this plays out, if Cincinnati and the Ravens win the majority of their games and move up, because I don't see, I don't know, I don't see any consistency out of Buffalo. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but I could see that week of the season, basically Kansas City's playing for its first place life in that Raiders game, which I think the Raiders only lost them by 1 point. That may be a major game that last game of the season.
I kind of feel like Kansas City's going to have it sewn up by then. The only way that doesn't happen is if the Dolphins continue to just soar, right? Or
exactly, yeah.
Buffalo. If Kansas City were to get caught by Buffalo, remember, Buffalo has the tiebreaker on KC.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like Dolphins and Chiefs do not play this year.
No,
that would be either, a phenomenal playoff game. I don't think anyone's really even talked about that. But you think about Tyreek Hill coming back to Kansas City, AFC Championship game, and Tua and Mahomes with an absolute light show. Take the over. I don't care what they set the over with. Take the over. Pound that over. Because that is going to be an absolute, it's going to be like a pinball machine.
Yeah. And I tell you too, because when I was looking at these stats earlier too, it kind of dawned on me after all this time. I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't believe that I'm reading the Jets at number 7 anyway. And the Jets, I was just thinking as a playoff spoiler, I'm starting to think that this team is a lot better than I ever gave it credit for. I mean, I know they've got Mike White playing, and he seems to be the quarterback that they need for their offense to work. Their defense is working. I think a lot of people are overlooking them. I mean, I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they may make a run through the playoffs. I think they're a better team than people realize. I mean, I've only now slowly come around at really giving them any respect as a team.
Well, it's kind of funny. So I wake up in the mornings and listen to New York radio just because there's a show that I really like. And so I listen to them, and they're constantly talking about New York. I flip back and forth through a few shows in the morning. Obviously, Ryan on radio from 7 to 10. Don't miss that here on WQEE. But I go back and forth, and I guess I pay attention to them a little more, them and the Giants, so I'm not surprised by this. But the Jets defense is elite. And you put some Mike White involved in there, and I really wish they would have flexed that game to make that the Sunday night game. Jets, Vikings, that would have been phenomenal. So we're getting the Colts and the Cowboys. By the way, I don't know if anyone saw it, but they have flexed the see where it's at here. I saw it just a second ago. They have flexed one of the games already, and I believe it was week 17, or is that week? What week is that? Or no, I'm sorry, week 15. They have flexed. It's not Patriots Raiders anymore, which is what they're still showing on ESPN. I'll find it in a second. They have flexed. I'll have to double check. Let me double check that. We're going to take a really quick break. We come back. We'll talk about that. And plus, Doug is going to give us his stupid underdog pick. So get that fired up, Doug. We'll be back in a flash here on WQEE.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neal, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Hockey season, and that means new merch over at ourdragonsmerch.com. Get the latest designs and some of our fun new souvenirs ahead of what's sure to be a great hockey season. Celebrate another season of River Dragons hockey by getting a new look to wear on game days, or surprise the big-time sports fan in your life with a new keepsake that will make them a River Dragons fan for life. Order online right now at ourdragonsmerch.com. That's the letter R, dragonsmerch.com. We'll see you at the rink.
Hey, sports fans, weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Although edited, tonight's thriller contains suspense and violence, which may be unsuitable. Parental discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. Drive time on WQEE.
If it was a regular salad, I wouldn't have said anything. But you had to have that bit.
Why, you could see he made that first down when he dived. If Howard Cosell came in now, he'd never get out alive. Cause he's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Welcome back here. Go ahead and pull this down. And as Doug and I come back on the main screen on our YouTube channel, WQEE 99.1 FM. Appreciate you spending your drive time with us here. We're here Monday through Friday. Braves Country just started here on WQEE 99.1 FM. So hope you'll tune in and lock in. So it was the Broncos that got flexed. I'm trying to find where the flex is. I think I found the week. There it is. Okay. There it is. They just have moved it around. It is the Broncos originally it's supposed to be Broncos Chiefs. Okay. And they flexed out of that because the Broncos are terrible and no one wants to see that. So instead it is going to be, I guess is this next week or is this December 11th, which is not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. It's going to be Dolphins Chargers. And so they're hoping for a few more fireworks. Of course, they're hoping that the Chargers win this weekend, because won't that be a disaster if they lose to the Raiders? And then you got a 6-6 team playing the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But I think they're doing that because they're trying to grab a couple teams that haven't been on, and it's one of the better matchups for that day. I mean, you could give the argument Jets Bills. I'd love to see Jets Bills, but I get why they went Dolphins Chargers, because you're getting East Coast, West Coast. Anyone who watches the Jets Bills are going to care about the Dolphins game, so those fans are going to watch. All that comes into play.
Yep.
We're just thankful the Texans and the Cowboys didn't get flexed in there. But anyways, let's go into this week. Stupid underdog picks. Everyone wants to give their picks later in the week, but since Doug's just here on Wednesdays, we're going to get everyone's picks as we go in. And for the folks who are not familiar with stupid underdog pick, real quick, you pick an underdog to win outright, and if they win, you get the points. that they are underdog by. Just to give you an example, I'm going to pull one up here real quick. For instance, if you grab the Texans, who are 7-point underdog at home against Cleveland, and they went outright, you would get the Texans 7 points. If they do not win, but they cover the spread, you get 2. If they don't cover the spread, you lose 2. And we keep up with the points on it all year long, and we'll be doing this all the way through into we'll probably cut it off at the end of the regular season and do a fresh one come playoff season. But it's a lot of fun and everyone seems to enjoy it. Okay, Mr. Doug, where are you going?
I'm gonna, like we were talking earlier, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and I'm gonna take the underdog Bengals to beat the Chiefs.
And what is the line on that one? Just 2.
Yeah, I was just keeping it conservative coming to the end here because I didn't know how many points I'm behind.
I'll get everyone updated on that on Friday, but you're considerably behind Bobby right now.
Oh, they fall further. That's right. That's right.
He hit a couple of weeks ago. So, do you want to change that to something a little more? Man, 2 points.
I know, because I didn't think I was that far behind. Ooh, boy, I'm far behind. All right. I don't know. I have to.
I'm not saying you got to everybody. Fence. Remember, you also got some college games that you could realistically. Let me look around here for you.
Yeah.
Give you some options that you could jump in a little better than I mean, yeah. I don't know if I really like too many of the college ones. LSU's not beating Georgia. Purdue's not beating Michigan. So let's just get back to the NFL.
Yep.
I mean, one of the biggest lines is the Colts plus 11 against the Cowboys. I just don't know if I believe that they're going to do that. Broncos,
well,
Ravens. I don't know about that. But
well, if I'm that far behind, I'm going to have to swing. I'm to try to catch up. So I'll go ahead. I'll make a really stupid. I'll go ahead and take that Colts game with the Cowboys.
Okay, Colts plus 11. It's not I mean, they've actually played decent football. They just terrible coaching down the stretch in the last couple of minutes of a Monday night's game. But if anyone knows how to coach terribly down the stretch, it's Mike McCarthy. So come on now, let's go. All right. I'll probably do mine tomorrow because we're running out of time here. So I'll probably do mine tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, 3 to 5, it'll be it's Tones will be back. No, sorry, Joey. Joey's on tomorrow. So Joey will be on. And Friday we've got Bobby and Tones. And of course I'm here every day. So we got a full slate, and then don't forget Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern to 3:30, we're going to be the pregame show leading into the kickoff show for the Southeastern Conference Championship game as the Georgia Bulldogs are going to hunker down and thump some LSU Tigers. So, and of course you got all those championship games that day, and that'll be nothing but college football talk. We will have a lot of fun with that. I'll preface this with saying there's a couple of ones that I'm in. I really wish that line was bigger. I thought the Steelers would be a little bigger favorites after the Monday night win, because I really think the Falcons are going to win. You know, the early line of the week was much bigger than what it is now. Now it's just 1 point. So yeah. It's not like, you know, the theory behind this. I'm always looking for at least 4 or 5 points before I go for a stupid underdog. Because what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Because if you cover the spread, you're going to get 2 points anyway. So I don't like grabbing anything 2 points. I'm not a big fan of 3, but if I was in the stretch, if we get down to the home stretch and I'm only down by a couple of points, I might do that just to try to catch someone. I won the last 2 years. I've won going away, but this year I started off terribly. I've had a little bit of a comeback, but I'm still well behind you two. So I'm gonna have to swing for some kind of offense. But looking at some of the lines real quick, before we do jam off of here. If the line was bigger, I mean, the Saints at home against Tampa, on the road against Tampa, the Saints have had their number. I don't know why. And it never makes any sense to me. But the Saints seem to pound them. But 3.5 just isn't worth doing it. I have no faith in the Seattle Seahawks losing against the Rams, especially after what just happened to them with the Raiders. I think they're coming fired up. And
oh yeah, no, they're
Bryce
quite
Perkins
angry.
Not right now. I mean, Bryce Perkins might turn his career around. He's only played one game, so I'm not going to kill the young man, but he's not ready for it. I mean, he was terrible the other day.
No, he's not ready.
You know, depending on who plays, Bears Packers is an interesting one. Bears getting 4.5.
I think the thing is,
4 is a fun one in San Fran.
What is the line on the Titans and the Titans play the Eagles this week? What's the line on that?
It's 5.5, but it's in Philly. I'm gonna tell you right now.
But I tell you what, if there is a team that's set up for the Titans to beat, it is the Eagles.
It is, because they give up a lot on the ground, and
they can't stop the run either.
They're right. That's what I'm saying. That they give up a lot on the ground, and their defensive tackle Davis is being weaned back off the IR. I don't know if he's going to play yet or not, but they got him at that IR. You know, what do they call that? IR restrictive. Where in the next 20 days, he has to come back and play. That was announced yesterday. What is your walk-off for the day, sir, as we go to jam on out of here?
Just two little tiny walk-offs. Anybody watch the Raiders-Seattle game? I've been watching football for nearly 50 years, and I have never seen a player get up off the bench, run onto the field, and make a tackle, and the referees didn't bother to call it. That happened to the Seahawks. Did that when early on in the game, Derek Carr threw he came to block. Excuse me. Pardon me. Runs off the field. I can't remember the player's name, but if you go on YouTube and you watch the replay of the game, the referee's right there. He jumps off the bench, goes out and blocks, and they get about 20 more yards on the return than they normally would, which led to their touchdown in the first quarter.
I'll have to look that up, because I have never talking about it and I haven't seen it. My walk-off for the day is we'll be back tomorrow, 3 to 5, same bat time, same bat channel. Stay tuned for Farrell Coast to Coast here on WQEE. And please like and subscribe today, youtube.com/@BravesCountry. You can take us anywhere you go. Good job, Doug. We will see you. You'll be with us Saturday for the kickoff show.
Yep, I'll see you then.
All right. We are going to start jamming on out of here. Farrell Coast to Coast is next.
We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please. Can I get another cigarette, please?
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted